Hi there, fans. Welcome to another episode of How to Make a Drink with Judy. Thank you, first of all, to all my fans when I asked for some suggestions of a really good name that we could change it, because How to Make a Drink with Judy is a little clunky. I wanted something really slick that would attract people, and so I asked for suggestions from people who watched the video, and they just came in like crazy. I got one. One suggestion was my friend in England, Ollie. Ollie suggested we call it Jude's Booze. I quite liked that, but I wanted to make it a little bit more active. So I've taken Ollie's suggestion, and here we are for the inaugural session, the second episode of How to Make a Drink with Judy, but the inaugural episode of Boozin with Jude. So Boozin with Jude it is. Before I get into my drink of tonight, I want to tell you a little bit about my friend Ollie, who I'm going to dedicate this evening's drink making session to. Even though I think Ollie likes Orangina a little bit better, and he did ask for the Vesper Martini, which I will do later. I've made that video for my work, but I'll do it later just for you guys. Tonight we're going to do the old fashioned, but before I get into that, let's tell you about Ollie. So Ollie and I met because we work in the Marian Shrine of Lourdes in the south of France, and we've done that for several years together, had a blast. And when I was in France, I was looking for Ollie one day, and I went to my team leader and I said, "Frank, have you seen Ollie?" And Frank went, "What?" I said, "Frank, have you seen Ollie?" And he said, "Who?" I'm like, "Frank, I'm looking for Ollie, man, Ollie." And his face was all screwed up, and finally the light bulb went on. He goes, "Oh, you're looking for Ollie? Ollie." I said, "Yes, Ollie. Oh, please, Frank, where's Ollie?" And he's like, "Ollie." Haven't seen him. So I never did find Ollie. He was off, at the ice cream store. And I learned that if you say Ollie, they don't really get it. So Ollie or Ollie, thank you for the name, Boozin with Jude. Here we are. Tonight, we're making the classic cocktail, the old fashioned. The old fashioned is probably the oldest cocktail in the modern cocktail era. And before I tell you how to make it, I'm going to tell you all about it because I love cocktail history. I don't really know cocktail history, but I'll make it up and make it sound a little bit interesting. So the rumor has it that this was made in 1880, or it goes back to that time, and in a gentleman's club, whatever that might mean, in Louisville, Kentucky, or Louisville, or Louisville, however they say it. That's in Kentucky. And it became a popular drink, and it made its way over to New York, to that cocktail heaven called the Waldorf Astoria. The Waldorf Astoria Hotel and its famous bar was on the site where the Empire State Building now is. And from there, it became popular at all the other famous hotels with famous cocktail bars, such as the Savoy in London and the Ritz in Paris. The Old Fashioned is a classic. Okay, what's in an Old Fashioned? Well, initially it was made mostly with a base of rye whiskey, because rye whiskey was a bit more popular. You can make it, nowadays it's made more with bourbon. Take your pick. What's the difference, Judy? Judy, what's the difference between rye whiskey and bourbon whiskey? Let me tell you. Okay, so rye whiskey, which I have here, and I'll tell you about this little whiskey in a minute. Rye whiskey has to be made with at least 51% rye grain. Makes sense. That's why we call it rye. Bourbon, which is typically American whiskey, has to be made with at least 51% corn, so corn mash. So bourbon probably has a sweeter taste, whereas rye whiskey is a little bit milder but spicier and maybe a little bit fruitier. Take your pick. There's also, on rare occasions, people will make it with brandy or cognac as a base. Remy Martin likes to send out a recipe that they call the Old Fashioned. If you make it with cognac, I would suggest, instead of using white sugar, which you'll see in a minute, which I forgot to bring out, so I'm going to have to go get it, I would suggest making it with a brown sugar. So I'll tell you what, you look at my picture here on the wall, and I'll be right back. Sing a song, talk amongst yourselves. Hey again, I'm back. I really need a producer. I'm not so good at this. So I've got my sugar. Now let's talk about what goes in it. It goes with a little bit of a sugar cube. That's what I had to go find. You can just use regular sugar, but it's kind of cool. You've got this muddler here. You're going to do some muddling. So the base of it is sugar, a little water, Angostura bitters, which I will talk about, and then your alcohol. Angostura bitters. Let's talk about that. Judy, I've seen that. What is it? Sit back and let me tell you. First of all, Angostura bitters are very noticeable. When they first made them, they made it with this like oversized label. You see how it's kind of looks like a child, or I myself put it on there, and it was a mistake. But they thought, hey, that's really cool branding. So every bottle of Angostura bitters has this oversized label, and there it is. What is it? Well, the history of Angostura bitters goes back again to the 1800s, and Angostura is a town in Venezuela. And Venezuela, for those of you Americans whose geography is really bad like mine, is in South America. So there was this German doctor who went to Venezuela to be the surgeon for Simon Bolivar for his medical troops. And basically he created this as a medical elixir, as a tonic for stomach issues. And that's what they used it for. Turns out, it tastes pretty good. And by the way, it's 47% alcohol. And so his sons, they moved to Trinidad, and as other things, it developed, it became this thing that we want, and they started to bottle it and sell it as the basis for some of the most classic cocktails, such as, for example, the Old Fashioned, the Manhattan. You can't make an Old Fashioned without it. If you do, it's just basically water, sugar, and booze. I mean, what's the point? So, Angostura bitters from Venezuela, now from Trinidad. What's in it? Well, we don't know. It's a big secret. They won't tell us, those little buggers. Apparently there's 5 of them in the whole world that know the recipe. They won't go on the same plane together because, whoops, we don't want to lose that recipe. They've also come out with now recently an orange aromatic bitter. So you could use like a dash of that in this too. It might be kind of nice because citrus is sort of a little bit of the flavor that we want to get in there. So there it is, Angostura bitters. Get yourself a bottle. People cook with it, and now they're actually making drinks where that's the base alcohol. Go for it. It's really good stuff. It smells really good. So I'm going to show you how to make the Old Fashioned. First of all, the glass. Once again, this is a Slovakian crystal glass. Thank you to my friend Ambassador Lubomir Rehak, name drop, and his lovely wife Dana, who every year invited me to the embassy in London because Slovakian crystal is quite famous, and they had this show for diplomats where you could get this stuff like really cheap. So I have tons of it. Why do you call this an old-fashioned glass? Well, you build the drink in the glass. So like last time you saw me put it in a shaker, mix it up. Here you build the drink in the glass. What do you put in it? And you need it to be wide enough so you can muddle it. Muddle it. Quite frankly, I don't know which way to use this, but I'm not worried. So first thing, throw in your little ice cube. You're going to want to throw in just a teeny bit of water just to help that. And then a couple dashes of your lovely, oh man, is that good? What can I say? I could drink that out of the bottle. 1, 2, let's do 3. Okay. There's your Angostura bitters. That really gives it a really nice full flavor. And then you take your muddling stick. I'm going this way. No, I'm going this way. I don't really know. Crush that sugar down. What you want to do is muddle it. Now, you can use simple syrup instead of sugar. Judy, what is simple syrup? Well, simple syrup is basically 1 part sugar and 1 part water that you put in a, you just heat it up until the sugar dissolves. Or you can go to the store and pay like, a crap load of money for it. When, you could just make it a lot cheaper. And so, it's bartender's friend. It's something that sweetens drinks. But I like this. I think this is cool. And this is the classic way to make it. And as you're doing this, the smell of those bitters, man, that's outstanding. I could just drink that little drink there and I would really be happy. So you get it mixed up before you put the ice in it, because if you put the ice in it and it's not mixed up, it's really kind of hard to mix it up. So you haven't been watching me, but I've got it now. It's a nice little liquid. Okay, so now we reach down to our magic freezer. English people, take note. We don't have an ice shortage here. In England, I noticed that if you ask for ice in your drink, they'd put a little cube in there. What's with that? It's an island. Water's free. Well, maybe the water that comes out of the tap isn't, but you'd think ice wouldn't be such a shortage thing. Then we take, I'm using a lovely little rye whiskey tonight. Journeyman Distillery is in Three Oaks, Michigan. Michigan, my home state. It's an award-winning little craft whiskey that they make, and this is rye based, this one. So you could say journeyman, but I say journeyman because I lived in England long enough that I know that if I say journeyman, people are going to make fun of me. So I'm going to call it journeyman. Went up and got this the other day. It's quite nice. And like I said, you want to use your favorite bourbon, go crazy. So we're going to take journeyman. We're going to pour, I don't know, let's go 2 ounces. There we go. Now we got to get that stirred up. It's always a little hard to stir something once you get the ice in there. But, and maybe I have too much ice. Maybe I over-Americanized the drink of my old-fashioned. Get it nice and stirred up so that you get that aromatic bitters in there and the sugar, because you want a little sweet taste. Did I tell you about the difference between the taste of rye and bourbon? Wow, I'm forgetting stuff. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it again. And hey, sorry if I'm repeating myself. So the rye is a little bit, it's not as strong tasting. It's a little bit milder. It's spicier. It's fruitier. This sounds really familiar. And bourbon tends to be more, robust, a little bit stronger tasting, and a little bit sweeter. So take your pick. Anyway, so here we have it. Now, is it done? Not even close. Here's the big argument. The garnish. The garnish is hugely important. So originally, word has it, originally it was made with a lemon peel. Now, I cut this beforehand because I was worried that I was going to slice my finger and, it would like kind of ruin the drink. So I cut this beforehand, and I'm going to just squeeze it a little bit and put it in there. And the other thing is, well, nowadays they put orange peel in it. And orange is actually really a nice complement to this drink. So we're going to do both. And they call that rabbit ears. So now we've got our rabbit ears in there. Well, what's missing? What do you often see in the old-fashioned? Maraschino cherry. It doesn't belong there. But you know what? I'm not a snob. So I went and found the maraschino cherries that just happened to be marinating in whiskey. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we're going to take one of these. We don't want that one because it doesn't have its stem. We want one with a stem because remember when you were in school and you had to try to, tie the knot in the stem? Well, now you can do that. So drop it in there, but you don't want to mix it in there. You don't want to muddle the cherry in there because cherry flavor doesn't really have a space in the old-fashioned. What did I just do? I just showed you how to make the old-fashioned. Now, when you go out with your 3 friends before dinner, instead of ordering the frou-frou drink, Amy, order the old-fashioned. You'll look cool. So, here's to you guys. I'm wearing my Polish shirt, so I'll say, Twoje zdrowie. Did I get that right, Adam? Twoje zdrowie. Or, as I would say, salute. Now, next episode, it's going to be the Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo will make margaritas. Basically, probably not a Mexican thing. I think the Americans took over their Independence Day and thought, what a great day to drink margaritas and have salsa and chips. So I'll show you a margarita for the Cinco de Mayo, and life goes on. See you then. Stay happy. Salute. Yum.